So the past couple of days, we have been talking about how you can improve your language speaking skills, and I've been taking you a little bit behind the scenes with the 30-day speaking challenge. So if you guys want to ask me some of your questions, feel free to do that. And you can even come join me on this live session if you want to talk with me. So you can leave your comments here on Facebook Live, or you can also come join the link. That's bit.ly slash capital Q, lowercase n, capital A, and then lowercase session, SESSION, for that's a Q&A, question and answer session. So yeah, feel free to leave any of the questions that you have here. So if you're watching this live, and let me know which languages you are learning. Oh, okay, we have, hi, Farben, can you hear me? I don't yet hear you, so I see that you've joined. You may want to unmute yourself, unmute your microphone. That way I can hear you if you have a question. Okay, well, yeah, let me know if you have what your questions are, what you'd like to with your speaking practice. So you're welcome to join that link. And so, okay. Yeah, I don't get, so let me just type here. And in case you're just joining, and if you've recently joined the Facebook group, welcome. Yeah, we are adding more and more people to the group, and I've been receiving lots and lots of requests for new learners who are interested in joining the language exchange group. And if you're not yet in that group, you're welcome to join. So I get a lot of questions. I'm a language teacher. I primarily teach English, and I also teach prep for the TOEFL. So that's the test of English foreign language, which a lot of students take so that they can get into a university, usually United States, or if they want to immigrate, or like a pharmaceutical license, something like that. Okay. Oh, okay. So I see. Yeah, you're welcome to. If you have any questions, you can type that in here. So Farben is saying, I'm not sure if he or she doesn't have a microphone or cam at the moment. There's the say. Okay, so Sarah. Okay, so yeah, let me know any questions that you have. Which languages are you currently working on? And what is your native language as well? That kind of helps me get an idea of what you what resources you might need to know for that. Okay, so and if you are watching this live, yeah, leave any questions that you have about language learning. So I'll tell you a little bit about my current. I'm currently working on Russian, and I'm also trying to refresh. However, that's been a bit of a struggle. Don't know enough German speakers to get kind of feedback, and also to get kind of a practice. So that's something that's kind of not exactly frustrating me, but it does challenge me to kind of find my motivation for really wanting to improve my German. The Russian, I've been very lucky to be surrounded by lots and lots of native speakers, both on Facebook and on VK, and I have lots of students from the Russian-speaking countries and former Soviet. I do get a lot of people asking me to help them with their English. So when they are asking me questions, how do you translate this? How do you say that? That keeps my vocabulary and my grammar kind of active, and also my listening skills. But for German, I don't have as much contact, so that's a little more difficult for that. To speak Spanish and French, and I live in Mexico City, and I have children who were born here, and they are in a French, Spanish, English environment where I'm speaking to them in English. And okay, yes, oh, okay, it's ironic here. Sarah from the German Speaking Challenge. Oh, okay. I can do the challenge with French. Mentioned how the current challenge changed with the experience of the first one. Okay, great, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of ironic that I was just saying I don't talk to enough German speakers, but yeah, I think I really appreciate your participation in the challenge, and I think you did a lot of great help with giving people feedback. So what has kind of changed and what's kind of evolving little by little with the challenge is I noticed as we were testing the challenge and going through the process, there was certain questions that were harder, and some consistency was a little challenging. But in what has been evolving, and we did this again in May with a new set of questions, and again going through seeing what was working for kind of getting people to practice on a daily basis and seeing their motivation. And little by little, I want to focus more and more on easier questions, things that don't take a lot of preparation work, things that don't require a lot of having to think about this too much in advance. I really want to just keep these topics like easy to focus on. Even people at a kind of a lower level can participate. A couple other friends who have wanted to practice with Chinese or as you mentioned here, French or Italian, starting this at a low level. And within a few days, the topics ended up being a bit too difficult for them. So they ended up kind of dropping out. And I've wanted to be able to kind of, yeah, make these easier. So things like talk about yourself, talk about your hobbies, favorite movies, books, music, things like that. So we're just gonna, like, in the first week for June, make these topics easy. I also want to invite a lot themselves to contribute questions. So that will also like make sure the questions and are this and work. I'm working on Wilderbeck. I'm working on that. I want to get more involvement from people in the Facebook language exchange community to also help us out. I know I've been adding a couple more. I noticed for the people who've been adding like yesterday, and I did notice that there were more French speakers. So I'm going to try to engage with those people a lot more, and also see if there's some native speaker teachers interested in helping us out. So I really want to kind of combine the challenge and the language exchange community so that we get the best of both worlds, where we get a lot of native speakers who are looking for language exchange partners and learners who want to practice this language and get extra speaking practice. Also, if you know French speakers and you have a language exchange partner already, yeah, invite them to join with you. But I do know there are a lot of students who've been practicing French. I think the most popular languages that have been in the challenge itself have been English, then as a target language, yeah, English. There's been Russian, French, German, some Italian. What I saw April, very popular, and also in the May one. So those end up being still these like Western European languages. Yeah, Spanish, French, German, Italian, English, also Russian. There are other languages as well that have been practiced in there, but there have been sometimes less native speakers, so that's been a little tricky for getting the feedback. For example, Catalan, somebody was practicing that actively, and also Ukrainian. So there's native speakers for Ukrainian and Russian to kind of give feedback. But definitely for the French, I speak French as well. I'll be happy to kind of give you some indicators. And there's been one learner of French who is participating in the Ad1 challenge, and she actually won the most recent, I think it was Ad1 challenge number 20. So so that was very motivating to see. I think she had started French from scratch over the last maybe 6 months or so, since last fall. It's very motivating to see people getting like about 3 months worth of practice, and the speaking challenge then kind of helping people get that practice on a daily basis. So I have a question for you. Like, what did you enjoy the most in the April edition there for the challenge? What were some of the questions that you liked, and what did you kind of like about the dynamic there? That you had signed up. I saw you on the list, people joining, and let me just go in and see some of the other people who have signed up so far, just to see some of the details that they've shared about their learning experience or what their goals are. Just here. And I'll also post a link to the page for signing up here. So okay. So yeah, we'll be starting on June 1st, which is about 4 or 5 days away. And yeah, there's somebody else. Yeah, for learning French in the Ad1 challenge has is signed up to join again. So if you're working on French, you're going to have working with. Also here, a Turkish native speaker, and also wanting to prepare in the TOEFL. So I think this will be good for speaking practice as well. There's a Russian speaker working on Italian, French, and Chinese. And the question is a little bit about working with no free time. So time management is something to consider as well. There's a Polish speaker working on English, German, and Russian. And again, there's like the time commitment and working on time management with this. And okay, we have an Armenian speaker who wants to work on English and Russian and not forgetting words, so working on vocabulary learning as well. Okay, yes, you've mentioned here for German and wanting to learn French, and that you've learned French in school, and kind of refreshing it and bringing it up from like a B, maybe a B1 level, okay? And yeah, if you're not really practicing or speaking it, so that's making it a bit difficult. Okay, so yeah, I think getting some regular practice is going to help as well. Okay, there's also a Vietnamese speaker who wants to work on English. They've been learning English by reading books and reading some texts online. And then their grammar is maybe like A2, B1. And what is this? And working on their speaking skills. So some of the goals they want to work on is understanding slang, grammar, and improving their speaking. So yeah, I think those are some good goals for this challenge. And what else? Another Russian speaker working on English. She's been in April. She's been participating in May as well, and just working on like expressiveness and sounding more natural. Okay. There's an English native speaker working on Spanish, and that they've been studying this for about 4 years with various methods, and getting between conversational and fluent and about like a B2 level to get more speaking practice and feedback as well. Yeah, being able to feel more comfortable with the language and just have confidence when having a conversation and not freezing up, and not being so conscious of it. And going from, yeah, this Polish speaker working on French and just started with French from scratch since last autumn. And the goals are kind of understanding spoken French and working on fluency and vocabulary. So those are some of the goals of people who've signed up so far, and we're kind of promoting this to get more people to join. And let me see if you have any other questions as well here. So, okay, I think your comment here, I think the challenge is a great way to get you started with speaking practice. And also the community was feeling nice. Okay, yeah. And I've kept on making daily recordings in English after the challenge ended. So I'm already on day 62. Okay, that's great. I'm very happy to hear that. So I'm glad to hear that that's kind of helping you, the progress there. And what else on here? So hi, Arash, or Rasmus. So if you want to join here, you're welcome to join us in the link here. Yes. So yeah, I think the community aspect is something that I really enjoy about it, and I'm also going to kind of open up with the language exchange group to try to get more of this feedback, so there is more of this community support, and because when there's been not so much of a complete of native speakers and learners, that's been a bit difficult for learners to find this kind of sense of direction of like with their speaking. Is it going in the right direction? Are they on the right track? Is their pronunciation correct? Is their grammar understandable? Are they using the right vocabulary words? So a lot of learners have these doubts if what they're doing is correct. Being sailboat, GPS, or just but not necessarily knowing that you're going to arrive at some destination. And I've taken sailing classes before, and it just all it takes is a slight turn, and you end up going a completely different direction. And if you keep going on that way, it'll start off small, but you're going to be going in two separate directions. As it does help kind of shift um, the kind of just a subtle change there to what you're doing is correct. So that's something I really want to help people get that feedback and get more of these native speakers to join in there. And Ciao, Yana, I see you're here. So it's good to see you guys. Yeah, no problem. We haven't talked in a while, but yeah, hopefully to get these hangouts happening more. I've been kind of also using some of them with people from the challenge and different levels of the challenge to get. So I was saying there, yeah, with the feedback, one of the motivations as well has been on the Italki community with the notebook entries, which is a text-based system where you write maybe maximum 2,500 characters. That could be about 400, 500 words. And since that community is so large, there are a lot of language learners, native speakers, tutors, professional teachers, and everybody is contributing to give each other feedback, especially on their writing. And that'll be things like spelling, punctuation, grammar, overall self-expression and the written expression. And it's just a good way to get people in a habit of practicing their language and writing on like simple topics. And people can do that like native is kind of hockey, and the chance of getting an answer smaller might not necessarily be that popular in Italki, especially for the corrections. I know another person I talked to really likes using Lang8, that's Lang-8, to get feedback on writing. So what we're trying to do with this speaking challenge is kind of elaborate a little bit on that with that similar process of kind of writing on a daily basis, but in this case, speaking on a daily basis. Because with writing, I mean, it's a bit asynchronous where you don't have to write live. You can write a sentence, pause, look up a word in a dictionary, check your grammar on a website or in a resource book, and you can do these little things like piece by piece, bit by bit. But when you're speaking and having a conversation with somebody, you can't really do that so much. I mean, it would be very difficult to have a conversation and say, oh, just 1 second, and then say one word. I do know people who do exclusively use Google Translate to do that kind of a thing where they, oh, and then they'll look on Google Translate and then they'll tell me sometimes the difficult words just disappear. They only use that word conversation, and then they don't learn that and keep it in their long-term active vocabulary. Okay, I see here. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name, but Fu Hong Wu. So hi, I always participated with the speaking challenge, but lately I've been busy, so I haven't recorded since day 15. Okay, well, you're welcome to join again, and we're going to try to make these easier to work on, and also I want to get them, meaning not necessarily informing you like on the day of each day with the email of, okay, today suddenly we're going to talk about this topic. So I know a lot of people, either if they are staying consistent with and they need to learn some new vocabulary or check some grammar, and also if these emails, because of time zones, kind of show up maybe after their morning routine. So maybe it's the middle of the day, and then maybe the rest of the day is busy and they don't have a chance necessarily to kind of review as much. So in that case, I want to kind of send out some of these emails or the questions that, or the topics that we're going to work on. I want to send and have this a bit more automated, and also maybe, let's say, like have the questions over the next 7 days, and that becomes a little bit more self-paced, even though this will be on a daily basis, and getting that practice and the feedback. If you know some of these questions in advance, that can allow you to do some of this vocabulary work or these prep work. Another thing that I would like to work a little bit on is helping each other with maybe some vocabulary words or some phrases that would be correct. Because, for example, when I joined the Ad1 challenge, one of the aspects of beginning that challenge was that they gave us access to phrases, and Glossika is a method that includes text, pronunciation, and con phrases. However, those phrases are a bit kind of unrelated one to the other. And recently I was talking to a language teacher who is a French native speaker, and she's created a method for teaching French to English speakers. Her name is Leah Tierlark, and she has a method called the staircase method. And it's, in a similar way, it's taking grammatical sentences and then building up your familiarity within the language to be able to kind of learn correct phrases, work on translation skills, and little. That's also a technique that I've used with form of learning a short phrase and then experimenting with it with some minor changes, make it great. Hi, Rasmus. Thanks for joining here. How are you?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. I'm doing fine, thank you. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Doing well. I've been meaning to reply to your comment the other day. I think I recognize your ambition. You want to work on several languages. I admire that, and I think that's really cool. I've also been a bit kind of empathizing, where you've started off with maybe languages on the first few days, but then I realized, like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a very difficult momentum to keep up as the days goes on. So you're welcome to join again. I know this sense of like this frustration or I failed again, but I've been listening to a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts, and these, like, yeah, I've failed so many times that, like, I can't keep track of the number of times I've failed. And at that point, it's more a test of persistence, and it's a test of perseverance to say, like, keep me down. I'm going to try to. I'm going to get back up on my feet. I'm going to keep going. So I would say definitely pick one or two. Maybe that's, I don't know, Estonian or Norwegian, I'm not sure, or just maybe pick one or two of those, and or I don't know if it's been Danish or Icelandic, and there's so many that you have, but I think one or two. I know it's hard to pick one or two, but just for the sake of 30 days, just kind of limit it. That way you don't feel so overwhelmed with too many languages to maintain at the same time.
No, it wasn't about so much about the number of languages. It was more about feeling bad that I still don't know that much in many of them. Like, okay, Estonian, maybe I know, maybe that's the one that after English I can say, okay, I feel kind of confident about it, but Hungarian, German, all the other languages, I feel that this has been a long journey, and still my knowledge is so basic. So it was kind of the reason wasn't that the task was overwhelming. That's my frustration. Okay. That's my level is not good enough to self-talk inside. Yeah, got.
Okay, I see. Okay, so yeah, the overwhelm is not necessarily the number of languages, but it's just realizing that your vocabulary grammar level might be more basic or low in each one of those languages. Okay, so I can so this is something that
even about English, about English, if I want to say honestly about even about English, sometimes I'm thinking, for example, the other day you were talking about this intonation, those kind of things. For intonation and pronunciation, I guess terrible. So I don't use the intonation, those kind of things. So I was when I was watching that video, I was kind of thinking, I should know that, and I should be using intonation after so many years. My speaking, everything should be better than this. But okay, I guess there is no point always trying to beat myself up or say, oh, I should be better. I should be better. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think there's always new things, or not necessarily new things, but things that kind of come on the radar. So yeah, like you're mentioning here for the intonation, pronunciation. I think I see this as a student, I see this as a teacher. First stage, especially if you're working on that self-talk and building up the vocabulary and building up the kind of momentum. I think a first stage is getting the fluency in terms of just speaking with mistakes, and then the next phase is getting into more perfection, not necessarily perfectionism in a sense that being very worried about tiny details, but it's just once you build up that momentum and tweak these little issues. I see this also with my kids, where as they are learning, let's say, Spanish and French and English, the first pronunciation is just really not perfect. There are issues that are with my children where my daughter does not pronounce the S sound, so she'll pronounce the T sound instead of an S. My son does not pronounce consonant clusters, so anything that has two consonants, he'll just reduce it. So I have to make some guesswork on what words. So sometimes the pronunciation makes the communication a little difficult. And sometimes Spanish speakers might look at me and say well, what are they saying? I'm like, I'm learning Spanish as a foreigner, just so trying to, but they're my children, so I have to kind of understand them. But their fluency is getting through daily practice and just using it over and over again, that it doesn't matter if they have all these mistakes, as long as they're understandable, as long as people they can express themselves very clearly, and they can understood. And then I think the next phase, as they're getting more and more into from kindergarten and so on, then they're going to get into a perfectioning, where they're going to learn how to spell, they're going to learn to write sentences, they're going to learn grammar, they're going to learn some of these things that really force you to pay attention to the small details. But I would say that these first stages is just getting that momentum, even if it's basic. I think we've talked about this before, where it's like, even if you just have to put a label on door or wall or chair, table, and just get some of the vocabulary. But talked about making meaningful. So it's like, okay, the door is, the wall is, but just force the act of the language. It's cool to get that weave motion, especially if it doesn't have on it, enforcing this, but some of these easy wins, which is definitely why I want to make these speaking topics as easy as possible, so that it not necessarily overwhelming in terms of number of languages, but maybe just less overwhelming in terms of I don't have any vocabulary words for that concept, or I've never thought about that topic even in my native language. So I don't even know what I would say in my native language. So what would I say in my target language? So maybe avoid some of those questions. So there have been questions maybe about like, I wanted to motivate people and inspire them, but maybe some of those questions are a little, maybe they're a little too abstract. So I'm going to try to bring this back and make them more like this, or talk about your favorite this or that. So I think I'm also going to use a lot of these TOEFL speaking questions, like the basic ones of describe your best friend, or a favorite restaurant. So I think, or your preference on, some people like this, some people like that. What do you prefer? So I think we're going to make those questions that people should have an easy chance to develop that answer.
Yes, and also other thing is that also about myself, that the fact that I felt that I failed, those kind of thing. It's the best thing I think I think the best way to deal with this is instead of setting like perfect goals, I'm gonna do 30 days. I'm gonna do 30 days now. Instead of that, the goal would be beating my previous record, getting better. For example, the last time, I don't know, I did videos, I don't know, for 10 days. I don't remember exactly. Was it 10 days? I'm not sure. But let's say it was 10 days. This time my task would be to beat that record as much as I can. Even if it is 11, it's an improvement.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that's a good approach. That, I mean, even if you kind of failed, but at least if you got into this like first 10 days and then maybe it interrupted, maybe this second time around, 11 days. Okay, 12 days. Let's make that streak a little bit longer. So I am going to send out. I want to send out some people who have participated maybe in May. Do you want to try this out a second time, or want to try it out again? I hope you don't hate me. I hope I haven't kind of burned any bridges with like giving people a sense of frustration with our language, but I think there's always a second chance, and I think we come to the end of each month. A few days from now, it's a new month. Okay, I'm going to start over again. And one inspiration I found when I was participating in the Heroes community with Zhenya Kashieva on VK is that the book, The 12 Week by Brian P. Moran, had a very good approach in breaking down like a 12-month set of plans and trying to convert like 12 months into 3 months and saying that like over a period of 12 weeks, what would happen to your productivity or your focus if you considered each week the value of a month. So if you could get done each week what you might get done in a month, and realize that a lot of people, they procrastinate on their plans and say like, okay, I have these 12 months, but they might not do anything for 9 months and then go into panic mode in the last 3 months, and suddenly in those 3 months they stay very focused, work consistent. So his observations were like, well, what would happen in level of intensity over those 3 months? And you just kept repeating those 3 months for each season. So let's say like, I don't know, January to March, and you put in 3 months of stuff. And I've noticed with the Language Heroes for 12 weeks, Benny Lewis with Fluent in 3 months, Add One Challenge in 90 days, you're getting a similar concept of 3 months or 12 weeks or about 84 days. And I think the least common denominator in that experience has been the daily approach or monthly. So I wanted to break down those 3 programs and say, what do they all have in common? And I would say, well, if you're working on your language on a monthly basis, and then if you get it down to a weekly basis, and even hopefully you can build up those, like you're talking about, of, okay, maybe I got 10 days. Okay, let me get this a little more. And I've also seen this myself where it's like, okay, I messed up this last week. I messed up this last month. Okay, next month is a new month, or even just tomorrow is so that kind of refresh button is a way to say like, okay, not everything is lost. How about tomorrow? I try something new and just build up a streak, a new momentum. It's really like a glass half full of, okay, I'm productive today, and let's kind of try to keep that up a little bit. But so I see for a lot of people there, as I was reading those comments earlier, saying that they want to work on time management skills and maybe how to fit to their early morning routine is one solution I've seen. When I do this myself at night, and as I mentioned, I mean, you gave me that image of a battery being like a cell phone battery. Yeah, that was an excellent example that I've started to use with students, and also in the participation of the challenge, to say like, if you start the day with a full battery, you're going to get a better momentum, a better progress with this. But if you do these at the end of the day and you're tired and you want to go to sleep, it might not be the most effective. And I noticed that with the videos that I did last year, a lot of those videos were late at night before I was going to sleep, and that's where I was like even falling asleep doing the recordings in the middle of them, and it was not so consistent. I kept going with it, but I would say working with the time management, working with the productivity of doing this a little bit earlier in the day, and talking to bloggers, language bloggers, and language. They even talk about like getting those early plans and preparations early in the week, like on planning out what you're going to do for the rest of the week. So I definitely want to make sure that going forward with this challenge, you know, at the beginning of the week, what we're going to be working on this week. What is the theme this week? What are the topics we're going to work on? And then that allows you to kind of these things in advance, of phrases, vocabulary, grammar, and you can kind of batch that and in when it's appropriate, and then you can know, okay, these are the topics, and you can maybe put that into your morning routine or make it manageable. Those are some of the things that I definitely want to version. So in the June version, and yeah, and keep me up to date on your progress, and definitely contribute ideas, speaking topics. So I know that these are things you want to work on, and topics that you want to improve on.
Yes. Yes. The thing is that a lot of times we always focus on the ideal image and ideal situation, and the thing is that I remember also a person that I follow quite a lot, Brian Johnson, also said that he was talking about like domino effect, and I can even remember that there was a like there was a physics like by a video by a physics teacher, and he was mentioning a lot, and that's exactly what we need to focus on. Like let me see if I can, 1 second, if I can find it. It should be easy to find.
So the concept is not focusing on instead.
Yeah, on the little small little progress, and you can see in this.
Okay, small progress.
Yeah. In this
domino chain reaction. Okay.
Domino chain reaction. You can see the first one.
Okay, I see. Yeah, a small domino followed by a slightly bigger one, and that has enough to trigger bigger effects. Okay, that's an interesting concept there. So it's not necessarily that all the dominoes.
Let me use this. Yeah. Can you hear this?
That's very clever. Yeah.
It's too silent, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, I think he's placing he's using a tiny little domino, but because of the effect that this tiny one hits the next one that's slightly bigger and slightly bigger, it ends up getting this massive domino. But that tiny little micro domino was enough to get it started. So I think that's a great image. Thanks for sharing that. I think in terms of the speaking challenge, I think we maybe these big goals of fluency, and I think everybody has their own definition of what fluency is, and how to achieve it, and what works.
Yeah.
Micro domino of maybe, I think those micro dominoes are maybe the goal of, okay, 90 days from now, or 12 weeks from now, or 3 months from now. I think that becomes this massive domino in people's heads. But if you can just break it down into a bite-sized thing and saying, like, okay, what is one thing I can work on today, or what's one thing I can work on in the next hour or the next 5 minutes. So maybe not worry where you're going to be 3 months from now, but maybe where you're going to be 5 minutes from now, or where you're going to be at the end of today. So I hear a lot of people in entrepreneurship backtrack their plans and the end goal in mind. But if I want to be somewhere 3 months from now, 45 days from now, or to get to the goal, where do I have to be at 45 days? Okay, at 45, halfway to there, and kind of backtrack. So that backtracking allows you down into what you can do on a daily basis. So I think I really like that image. That's a great image. I'm gonna have to share that with people in the as they start the challenge, to kind of
not just about the level of speaking, also about the fact that, for example, last time, I don't remember exactly how many days was it 10 days, I don't remember, but okay, for x number of days, instead of 30 days, I completed for x number of days. I didn't complete for 30. Okay, this is not end of the world. Next time I'm gonna try like the next domino, which is a bit larger than the previous one. I try, okay, for example, if I completed X days, then a X plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, whatever I can. And then the next time, that's X plus 2, 3, whatever was, let's say that's Y. Then next time Y plus something. Then next time Z plus something. Yeah, this way I'm gonna improve and gonna reach the goal. That's okay. Yeah, the idle image. Okay, I have to hit the 30. Oh, I did not 30. It was less than 30, so that's failing. No, it just I did as much as like I could for the first time. Okay.
So, yeah, and I think failure is not such a bad thing in itself. I think failure is its own learning process as well. To like, I had a really bad kind of collapse at the end of or like last August, because I joined Ad1 Challenge at the end of March, and then I was in April, May, June. I also joined with Challenge for like, and I was doing Russian and Greek simultaneously. That was a crazy idea. I don't know why Brian allowed. I mean, he gave me a warning, but I think, yeah, you're crazy. Go ahead. But it ended up being a really important learning lesson there of like, yeah, just like don't bite off more than you can chew. But and then I traveled to the United States, and I was visiting with family for a month, and just teaching online, just it really took off for the amount of hours that I was teaching. So everything just storm. I guess just things kind of just, my language learning just, that's abruptly stopped. And so the habits I was making of making 90, 100 days just suddenly stopped. And I'm not sure if it was sustainable in the long term. I was able to keep it up for those like 3 months, but all of a sudden life kind of got in the way, and I was just not being sustainable. I was not making it like easy to maintain, and I had a real hard time in August, September, kind of like, how do I get back on the horse again? How do I start over again? It was just so difficult. And I think a lot of the language bloggers were saying like, yeah, I know, it's like, you have to just start somewhere, start over again. And it was really frustrating. And I really suffered with that. So the end of March, that I decided, okay, I'm going to start this over again. I'm going to force myself to do this again.
Yeah, and one other thing is that a lot of us sometimes we are so motivated, we have a lot of energy and time and everything, and we do amazing, and then the problem comes when we set the standard that's amazing that we did. That means that every day I have to be at my best to achieve such a thing. Anything below that is not acceptable. But they always say that put the floor so easy that you can't fail, and put the ceiling like that dream. Like for example, for languages that I'm learning, for French, German, Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, and Dutch, there are Duolingo courses. So I do this Duolingo every day, and for me the is just one lesson, one lesson for each of these languages per day. That's enough for me. That's the win for me. But for example, a few days back, I was so motivated. I don't know. I got 2,000 points. That's like, I think 200 lessons in Duolingo. If I put that as a standard, I'm gonna fail every day, because 2,000 points, that's not gonna happen every day. So
Yeah,
The
I think that's
problem
true.
is,
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, the efforts you make on a daily basis, if that becomes your new standard, it's. I think I see this also with companies where they establish their like annual growth. And I was listening to one conversation where this person said like, okay, yeah, our growth goal is, I don't know, 5% growth, and then if you try to set that as the new standard, and then the next year you also have to get 5% growth, it becomes almost very, very difficult. It becomes exponential, where like you have to keep it somewhere, like progress is being important, but not necessarily raising what's the new standard, because I think at some point, it'd be very overwhelming to keep up. See with these challenges, where the 3 months they finally reach this new level, and suddenly the next challenge they just drop suddenly. Like they had this plan to get them from here to here, and then it's very difficult to take the plan to go from here to here. So I have failed a couple times. I mean, like in the Language Heroes, I was voted king of fall 2015, and then abruptly the next challenge for winter, starting at the beginning of 2016, it was just like boom. I learned all these things, I made all this great progress, and then I didn't quite know how to get from, I knew how to get from here to here, but not from here to here. So I had to backtrack. And then I took 3 months off, and then I joined the Ad One Challenge, and then it was just just a different experience. And there I was able to kind of start from here again, and then into the be a finalist in that one as well. But I think I needed a little bit of this, either this break, or I needed to reassess my goals and reassess my, like, I couldn't make that new thing be the standard. I had to kind of maybe go back a few levels and say, okay, let's start from here and do this again. I think also I see this with students quite often, where the first time you do something, it's not effective. You have to think about this, you have to concentrate. But if you give yourself the option to do this a second time and say, hey, let's do this a little faster, let's try doing this for quality, and let's see what happens. And then it gets faster, and then the quality gets a little better. And then we say, okay, let's try this a third time and see how fast you can get, how the quality, the concentration. And it's just kind of doing the same thing, and not necessarily setting a completely different goal, but maybe take something repetitive and quality with that. So I think, speaking of challenge, it's a little bit of days. Okay, we did 30 days. Maybe this was a little difficult, that first set. Okay, let's try it again for 30 days. Okay, maybe this will get better. Maybe the quality will improve. Maybe the focus will improve. So I think, and then breaking that down into each day. Okay, today was a little tricky. So I think we're gonna maybe have some related topics from day 1 to day 2, not necessarily completely switching. This will be like, here's this idea, and then slightly above it, and slightly above it, so you can develop the progress in mix if possible. Completely random.
Yes. And one other thing is that what was that book? I don't remember the name of the book, but it was saying that it's like a flower. When the flower is perfect, it's always perfect, regardless of where in whichever stage of the growth it is in. It's always perfect. So always saying, "Oh,
I love that image."
if I don't do that, like for example, if I participate in that, for example, a speaking challenge, and I don't do the the recordings, and I don't do them perfectly, this kind of thing is not acceptable. No, at any stage we are, maybe at the previous stage, that was my best. Like my best was to give 10 videos, like not videos, audios, but yeah. But you get what I mean. So not always judging,
really like
or
that.
yeah, always judging, or if where I am is not good enough, I want to be somewhere else, and that's a problem. I could catch myself because I tried that exam, that the Estonian exam that I tried last year. I tried it again. It was last week, yeah, last week. Around this time, it was last week, and in the exam, the speaking part, when we were talking in the speaking part, I could see again this. The first part is, I don't know if there in IELTS there is, but in TOEFL, because TOEFL I never tried, I don't know. But they give you a topic, and they give a paper, and they give 1 or 2 minutes time to think, write something, mind map or something, and then 1 or 2 minutes the person has to talk about it. And my mind was blank. I couldn't write anything on my paper. So then I started talking. I had to talk for 2 minutes, and I hardly know what to talk about. And then my mind that's my mind. We always have a critic inside, and that critic started. That's wow. You are like telling me that I am not doing well at all, and I'm becoming an embarrassment or things like that. And I was buying to whatever that critic was saying, telling to me, and I was going down. I was ready to crush, and then all of a sudden, I'm happy that all this work that I have done, at least it's something. All of a sudden, right before I crash, I caught myself, and I said, "What am I doing?" I am okay. That critic is saying I'm being an embarrassment. I should be ashamed. This kind of thing. I'm letting it I'm buying to that, and then I'm letting it to tell me, and I'm gonna ruin everything. So what am I doing? Why I am doing this? And right there, I stopped. Whatever, beating myself up or all those things. And all of a sudden, totally, I access the person that I am when I am not buying to that negative voice, which is I am usually a cheerful person. So all of a sudden, my crushed face become smiling and laughing. And even after the speaking part finished, my speaking partner said, thank you, because I think she was kind of nervous also. But then all of a sudden, when I got cheerful and I got my energy up, it affected her positively as well. So this is always like going on.
Yeah, I think the brainstorming skills are definitely something that are to work on. Yeah, I see this all the time with the TOEFL prep students as well, and also like the IELTS as well, where you have to kind of suddenly come up with a topic or come up with an idea, the topic, and there are some techniques that we use. I usually talk about those techniques with the TOEFL prep students, but I think I will discuss these as well in the challenge. So when people say like, I didn't know what to talk about on there, but yeah, I think it is true what you're saying here about like into this little character that's kind of negative, and then on here kind of the one positive. I think get a little and kind of focus on the positive one that's kind of encouraging you, saying like, hey, you're doing something correct, or you'll be able to do this. I think the other one that's like negative, I think that ends up being a bit of a like a downward.
Of course, that's negative. Also, it's not negative. It's like a misguided person because in the end,
worry,
at least about
worry and anxiety.
It's about at least about me, but about different people it might be different. But for me, that character inside that is usually comes with criticism thinks that the only way that I would be good enough is to be perfect. So he wants to make sure I am perfect, and that's why when I am not perfect, he either tries to force me somehow with being rude, or that way wants to push me either to get out of that situation where I am not perfect, or try to become perfect, to become like that good enough. The definition for that character is perfect, because of course that's related to experiences I had in the past, and those experiences kind of taught me, okay, attention comes when I am perfect, when I'm doing amazing. So that character is trying to guide me toward that perfection, because he thinks
perfectionism can be a big problem of this. And again, relating this back to like business stuff, where I've seen a lot where, for example, when I was in France and working with businesses and teaching English there, I would say there was like these lots and lots of meetings, lots and lots of planning, lots of like brainstorming and getting all the perfect ideas in place before any productivity happens or any happen. And I think there were some case studies done where American company, they have the idea for a product, but they start building it, they test it, they improve it, it gets better and better, and then they launch it, they go to market, they start selling it, and the French company has not yet finished all their plans. They haven't finished all the planification process to get all the perfect ideas in place before they start testing something. And the American company has already gone to market, sold it, dominated the market, because they took an imperfect idea, but already just seen it and then improving on it from there. So I think sometimes with like language learning as well, we might want to get everything in place in theory, everything perfect, and then start practicing. And I think a lot of the language learning gurus and the polyglots talk about, like, forget about being perfect, just get started, just start speaking like Benny Lewis. I think he talked about speaking like Tarzan. Don't worry about being perfect, just like embrace being imperfect, and just get started. Have this little mindset of start now, start today, don't worry about all these mistakes, just kind of have some hope, kind of expectation, that tomorrow will be a little bit better than today. Not perfect, but just so I'm gonna we're gonna probably wrap up here in the next few minutes. I've been talking here for about an hour, and so I think those of you who've been watching this live, and if you're watching the replay, hopefully you're getting some value out of these questions and these comments. But and once again, we've been talking a lot about the challenge, the speaking challenge, and getting some good results on a daily basis. So I would kind of encourage you, if you before, kind of try it again. There's always, as Rasmus has been talking about here with me in the Hangout, saying maybe next time you can get a better streak and better results. So I think there's always tomorrow you can get some better results, but also today, thinking that mindset of tomorrow will be better, trying to include that in your daily routine for okay, how to make tomorrow better. Okay, what can I do today? Something small to work on. Okay.
Yeah.
Any or thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's all about today. Some people even say if somebody puts a sign like tomorrow, for example, tomorrow, when is tomorrow? Because tomorrow never comes. It's always now. It's always this moment. So there is no tomorrow. So
Yeah,
now will be will be always whatever it is, and tomorrow doesn't.
that's funny.
Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow doesn't exist, but I remember visiting in Washington, D.C. I went to visit the Mint, where they, or the Bureau of Engraving, where they print the money, and there was a sign that said tomorrow, but the sign is all, no matter what day you go visit the Bureau of Engraving, you have the sign that says tomorrow, free samples. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna come back tomorrow, but the tomorrow sign, the tomorrow never changes. So it's just a joke that they have on there. But if you just, with this mindset of like, okay, tomorrow, and tomorrow never changes. So it's just, it always stays like the kind of dangling in front of you. It's always in front of you. But if you kind of break that and say, okay, I want some progress today, not tomorrow. So yeah, I think that's a good way to end things. So make it today, make it today, not tomorrow. So great. So we're gonna wrap up here, and yeah, thanks for everyone for watching this, and definitely come check out the speaking challenge. I'll post a link there if you're in the Facebook group, and we'll be kind of getting you a little bit more info about how, like yesterday, I showed you something behind the scenes of how it works, and then we'll go into this kind of planning out how is going to the first week go, and try to get more people in the language exchange group involved in the challenge. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Rasmus, and thank you, Fulong and Liliana, for watching, and Laurence. So get some good work with your language learning today, and tomorrow will be better. So yes, and yeah, thanks for your thoughts. I'm excited for the next challenge. Yeah, me too. That's good. So I'll be happy to have you participate and help us out, and I'll be keeping an eye on your French practice there. Sarah. Okay, so great. Have a good day, everybody. Ciao.